This is Lou Katzos, and we're here for another EMBCA event. This is another sold-out event. We're doing the development, design, and construction panel discussion that we have every few months. Basically, it's an unscripted panel discussion, and we get together with the leaders of the industry from the development community, the design community, and the construction community, just to chat to see what's going on, what the latest things are. Today we have a fantastic panel. We have Chris Chu, who's the founder and president of United Construction. We have Eric Benheim, who's the CEO, president of Modern Spaces. We have Ken Kaleo, the president of CNY Group. We have Donna Olsham, the president of Olsham Realty. Martin Piazzolla, the senior vice president of Avalon Bay. And David Rothstein, the executive vice president of Extel. I'm the moderator of the panel. Enjoy. And right now we're having a meet and greet, and we're going to start the panel discussion shortly. This particular event, we're doing it in honor and memory of Faith Hope Consolo. Faith has been on this panel many times. She was always really fun to be with. She was always, in many cases, combative, which is great when the event is unscripted. And it was really a shock. It was a shock to me personally, and a shock to many of us in the industry when at the end of the year we found out before Christmas that she basically died. And it was unbelievable to many of us. We are going to have someone to also speak a little bit more about her. He's not here right now. It's going to be Lloyd Williams, the president of the Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce. For those who don't know, I am an executive board member of the Greater Harlem Chamber. Faith was also a board member. And we've done a lot of things together. She was always fun. To many in the industry, they thought she was hard, aggressive, and all these other things that sometimes people say about successful women. But she was always there. Whenever we needed Faith, she was always there. If I called her up and I needed her for any particular thing, if I needed her for a panel discussion, let's say the day before, she would always appear. It never happened that way, but again, she was always there. So we are absolutely going to miss her. She has been here for many of these events, and actually from the beginning, not only this event, but a lot of the other EMBCA events that we have. We have Lloyd Williams, the president of the Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce. Lloyd is more than a friend to me. As he likes to say, we're brothers, and he's absolutely correct about that. He's always there for me, I'm always there for him. And Faith was there for us. Lloyd.
Thanks a lot. I won't consume much of your time. When I was last here with Louis, we had the comet, Faith Hope Consolo, on the panel. And she did an awful lot of things with us, and I'd like to, if you don't mind, just ask some of our board members who serve. Lou serves on the executive board of the Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce, this year celebrating its 123rd anniversary of continued service in the city of New York. And we have a few of our distinguished board members with us who are always here. And little did we know that when we last saw Faith at our executive, at our chamber board meeting, that 2 weeks later she would pass away. And she made this extraordinary presentation to us on retail development in the city of New York, and gave Lou and I directives in terms of what we needed to do and how we needed to do it and when it needed to be done. That was Faith. And we took that charge seriously and were shocked when we heard that she had passed away suddenly. So let me then end by saying that our board members, Lou and I, have determined that each year I see people in the audience who joined us at the New York City Economic Development Day that we do each year on the first Thursday, second Thursday in August, this year being August 8th. We have a big business awards luncheon. At that luncheon, we're honoring the Rudin family for everything they have done to assist us. But we are going to give a special salute to Faith, Hope, Consolo, and we're going to do an annual scholarship to a young lady who is mastering the field of real estate and development.
So we're going to start, again, there's no questions, so we're just going to check. Chris, tell us a little bit about your background, because it's fascinating that you came here from China and then have become such a success that you're building now the tallest building in Queens, which is very exciting, one of the largest buildings, close to 1 million square feet. Tell us a little bit about the background and what motivated you to go into the development business and the construction business.
I came to this country on 1986, January 21st, about 11 o'clock, landing at JFK Kennedy Airport. I think it's Northwest, the airline. So my cousin picked me up from the airport. And at that time, actually, I come with my brother, George, together. So picked up from the JFK airport. So you drive from the LIE 495 and then get on BQE. So I looked at Manhattan, wow. So I tell myself, this is a great city. And actually, I only went to school for high school for probably 6 months, 1 year, less than 1 year. Then I went to the construction business. So probably stayed construction business for 5-6 years. I started my own business at the same year, 1986. And then I started a plumbing supply. I opened a plumbing supply. So when I opened a plumbing supply, I sell all the plumbing supply to the contractors, developers, builders. So I was asked them at that time, which is the friends, I know them, how much is the piece of land, 40 by 100, they're putting up 3 families house in Kelowna. That time it's probably 80,000, 100,000 a piece of land. So I was in construction business. I know exactly how much to build that. Build up. The 2-3 family home. So I did a calculation. That make money much faster than plumbing supply. So from 1996, I started to put all my money anywhere money I made. I put on the land. I buy the land, started to build it. So from 1996 until right now, for some 2 family homes, some 8 family, some is buildings. I did almost 90 building and houses. So really 20 story lower I built up by myself. And the Lawrence City one, the Skyline Tower, it's too tall. So we hired a new line construction to build it for us. And the Hill West is the architect. Originally that building is 960 feet, but the FAA doesn't let us to build that higher because LaGuardia changed the rules. And they say if less than 800 feet, we approve it right away. Otherwise, you have to wait. So then we decided 778 feet for Skyline Tower. And for last 20 years in the real estate business, I really enjoyed it. The New York City is a very great city. But my major projects mostly in Queens, Lawrence City, Amherst, and downtown Jamaica, Flushing also. I don't have anything in Manhattan.
Donna, tell us about your very famous. Every week it comes out, and every week we're like shocked or happy or whatever.
Okay.
So your latest prediction, which was everywhere actually, was that the first quarter was going down 19%.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's down 19 at $4 million and above.
Well, $4 million,
But-
because you're only in the $4 million.
I believe you're going to see this coming out in the next few days, maybe in the Wall Street Journal tomorrow. You're going to see that the sales are down in the first quarter, straight out. And it's 5 quarters of down, for sure.
A few months ago, if you remember, and you were saying, Lou, I told you about the IT businesses coming in.
Yes, that's true.
And Amazon was announced, and you say, Lou, I told you.
But I didn't know they'd screw it up. I mean, I am so disappointed in that. That was a fabulous deal for New York, but I will say this, technology is driving New York. It will supplant the finance sector. It will be the biggest driver, and the reason that Amazon was coming, no offense to Long Island City, isn't because of the land, but it was the talent. It's the talent pool that is so unique here.
Yes.
So they can get good real estate deals around the country, but it's the talent pool. I believe, and I mean, at the day after Valentine's Day, which was the day that they canceled the deal.
That was a beautiful day to do that.
Yeah, I wrote to Cuomo and I said what my parents would always say to me: you better get back on the field and get that deal back, because you owe it to New York to get that deal back. So, Lou, I think that you should start a new political party. You know what it's called?
Cats. No.
It's we had the Tea Party, right?
Yes.
The Tea Party was born out of the '08 crisis.
Right.
But we need the A Party. And the A Party is for all the people who wanted Amazon. Okay? All the people. And that's the people, not just the rich, but everybody who would have been affected, and that was a lot of people. So I
don't know. Maybe he got scared because he appeared in the papers for showing too much.
You think
I'm
so?
not sure, yeah.
I think that was a lame excuse. I will say this about very rich people and billionaires.
Yes.
They are touchy, they are sensitive, and you have to be polite. You cannot be rude to them. They, they always say the golden rule, the man who has the gold rules.
Yes.
And so I think that you have to know your client and you have to hang in there. So I'm very disappointed in the politicians in not being able to hang on to Amazon. But I do believe that more and more tech people will be here. And the reason is because we have so much going on in New York, including from the Cornell Technion campus and NYU exploding and Columbia. All of them continue to increase their technology, computer science programs.
Well, I know that ONASA said that there's only one rule, and that is there are no rules. So with that, I go to the barbarians, quite frankly, of the industry, the construction people, because we don't tolerate any of this touchy-feely type stuff. So it's a pleasure to have Ken Kaleo on here. And as a matter of fact, Ken, I was on the Long Island Railroad the other day, and as I was going past the Jamaica station, I look up and I see your sign. Tell us a little bit about what you guys are doing.
That project, which is known as Crossing at Jamaica Station, is a transit-oriented development, obviously. It's sandwiched between the LIRR and the subway on a very narrow sliver of land. It will be home to approximately 729 families. There's a high-rise tower of about 30 floors, which will be market rate housing, and then there's a lower 15-story building that'll be affordable housing. And they're both atop a common podium, which will have retail and parking below.
So how are you doing, by the way? What's happening? Are you busy right now?
Yes, I mean, it's definitely a overall softening. I think there's a transition into different markets that we're seeing. Certain markets are getting very soft, others are beginning to pick up. But overall, we're busy. We're busier than we ever been in the past, but I definitely see a softening on the horizon.
What type of contracts are you seeing? Are you seeing GMP type contracts or agency type contracts, or what's the model right now?
Most of the contracts are CMAR with GMPs. We do have some of our clients who we've had repeat business with. We give the option for GMP, but some of them don't take it, and they keep it as a pure CM relationship.
Yeah, because they don't want to pay the larger fees, and they don't want to, they don't want to subdivide the money.
Right.
There's cost savings because they don't believe your numbers to begin with.
We're also seeing it.
And they figure your numbers are too high, so therefore you're going to try to grab the money.
No, well, we also seeing that.
I'm just pulling a leg.
No, that's right. You said our industry was barbaric, so it's okay. It fits right in. We're seeing also, though, a lot of opportunities for takeovers. And actually, we've been presented with 3 in the last 2 weeks where clients, prospective clients have come in and said that we have a general contractor on our project, and they're already 4 months late. We're projecting they're going to be 8 months late, and there's no men on the job. They can't get manpower. Are you interested in taking it over?
These are mostly smaller non-union type contractors?
Right. Mostly non-union, but both in the condo market. We took over a project on Spring Street for a small non-union GC. Another one, we actually are looking at something right now to take over 3 buildings from a GC. So we're seeing more of that, and I think that's a product of developers, owner developers chasing a low number, not perhaps having the in-house sophistication on how to properly evaluate it, and a small GC getting overextended, or some of his subs getting overextended and getting into trouble, which is really, in this kind of market, what really need to watch very carefully.
Absolutely, absolutely. Eric, you've been termed the mayor of Long Island City. I know you've been getting a little ribbing on that, but the reality is that there's a reason why they called you that, because of your fantastic record, quite frankly. Certainly you're in all the magazines in terms of the sales and all the rest of the things that you've been doing in that area. Tell us a little bit about the market and what's happening right now where you're selling.
So Long Island City is probably still, I think, the hottest market in America. We've been on the map, the global map, literally since Amazon came. It's a shame what happened. I've been very vocal about it from when it hit, and from when it left, I've been probably even more vocal about it. But the one thing that happened that Amazon came, it definitely put us on the map, and it put us on the world map for the first time. You know, when I started in the business 18 years ago, I started in Manhattan, the other borough, and I decided to focus in Long Island City about 13 years ago. And you know, I was mostly working with a lot of local people in Queens, maybe Brooklyn, a couple people from Manhattan. But for the first time in the last 4 or 5 months, I've been getting calls from people in France, and Germany, and Korea, and Japan, pretty much all over the world, where that never really ever happened to me. It was more people living in Astoria or Flushing or wherever else who wanted to come to the neighborhood. So for the first time, we're on the global map, which is a good thing. A year ago, we were named the fastest growing neighborhood in America, which is obviously another good thing. And I agree with Donna, the reason Amazon came wasn't just because of Long Island City, it was because of the talent. And Long Island City actually has the only bridge that goes to Roosevelt Island. And coincidentally also, the head of Cornell Technion is on the board of Amazon. So a lot of those factors, I think, kind of helped them coming. And I've been still fighting a lot behind the scenes. I still think there's probably
Is there a chance?
I think there's a 25% chance.
Yeah, this is what I hear, you know. It's crazy for them not to be here. Because what they're going to do is Google will just suck up the talent, and the other people will suck up the talent. And I'm going to tell you one other thing that's interesting. I was having dinner the other night with somebody who is the president of a very large billion-dollar company. And they said to me that privately, that of course they thought that was wrong when Amazon left. But for themselves, they thought they might have a chance to lure talent that they couldn't get, you know, that they wouldn't be able to get in the future. They were worried that Amazon would suck up the talent. And I believe that Amazon needs to be here because the talent, this is the greatest pool of talent. You cannot just hang out in Silicon Valley.
No, you're absolutely right.
So,
I agree 100%. I've been, when they first come very involved, our company is very involved with the community. We sponsor and contribute like hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in like every single freaking organization in the neighborhood. So when Amazon came, they wanted to meet all the community leaders. I had met with them about 4 or 5 times. I had lunches with them. And then when the news broke, my office was like a press junket that had like every news station lined up. And at 5 o'clock I was leaving and to go to meet with Fox, and all of a sudden I get a call from one of the Amazon guys who I've been dealing with, and just a week prior we actually, when the rumor came out that they were going to leave, I hate the word activist, I became an activist. And
well, you're like a fanatic. I keep getting your emails. I keep getting these savage emails from you.
And we started a petition. We started making, I put my entire marketing team just to focus on this. And we made signs and we handed it out to local businesses. And I got a call from Amazon like a couple days later. Thank you. We started changing the narrative in the press. And and the guy from Amazon called me, one of my contacts over there, just to thank me. And he's sorry. And I said, I have nothing to lose. So I gave him the pitch of my life. I was very explicit. I didn't really care. And I said, you want to be here, you can't, blah, blah, blah. We were all the different things we were doing. And he basically said, why don't you get what you just said in an email, and I'll get it into the ratings. I was like, okay. The next day I wrote an email, I sent it to him, I CC'd about 5, 6 other people who I met on Amazon. The following Monday, his boss calls me in the morning at 9 o'clock in the morning. I actually had a meeting for Skyline Tower, your sales, and I couldn't make the meeting that day.
You're busy attacking the other guys.
Yeah. And he called me, and I said, I was like, you guys are the biggest company in the world. You can't let socialism push you around. I said, you want to be here for our talent. You want to be here for whatever. It was reasons you chose here. You spent a lot of money. You invested in here. You want to be here. And I just let him have it. And for about maybe 40 minutes we spoke, and I told him there was what's his face from Lightstone had said, compared it to 9/11. And I told him that story. I said, you know, people are comparing this to 9/11.
Wow, that's a little crazy.
I know it's crazy, but
All right, I'm going to swing to David now, because I know you're incensed. You want to continue to talk. We're going to come back to Amazon. Don't worry about it.
it's crazy.
Oh, David, tell us a little bit about what's happening in the city architecturally, because some of us, and I hate to say this because I never comment about people's buildings or anything like that, but the buildings are starting to look pretty screwed up, quite frankly. There's little needles, these little toothpicks are sticking up into the sky. What's going on here?
Which ones you talking about? Yeah, I'm not quite sure where I want to go with that one.
David, I'm sorry, David. No.
You're seeing the buildings from the last cycle. The next cycle, they're going to be better. No, actually, the needle buildings there are a few of them, and they're special, and they have a place, but, you know, that's not the majority of what's going on in the city. I think there's...
But tell us what's happening architecturally. There's nothing new happening the way I see it. I mean, what do you see?
You really did put me up here to kick me out. We're listening to you, and you're telling us we have to use the window wall that you compressed at X, and
well, I prefer the window wall because it was more cost effective.
You know, so we design a nice building, and then you screw it up. But you asked for it, right?
Listen, all I know is one of the buildings you put precast and curtain wall, and you screwed up the whole schedule. But that's a separate issue.
But it looks good.
No, by the way, You're absolutely right.
You know, you have to do that. You have to work outside of what
David, all
what tells us to
kidding
do.
aside, your aesthetic is fantastic. Obviously, no one's better than you in certain things, in particular zoning. What's your feeling about where the trends are going architecturally?
Well, from a real estate perspective or an architectural perspective, I guess.
Stick to the architectural, because always from a real estate perspective and a developer's perspective, they're always knocking down all your concepts.
Well, what I would say is that since the condo market has slowed down, there's less demand for sort of very high-end architect gimmick buildings, I think. We're not seeing that so much now. We're seeing good, solid, strong architectural design being carried out into further reaches of the outer boroughs, and the new buildings are all high quality. There are a lot of good architects practicing and doing building types that they might not have been doing 5 or 10 years ago because they were doing buildings in China or whatnot. So there are a lot of good homegrown architects doing buildings in New York City now, buildings that are often mixed income rental buildings, and a lot of these are going up in places where we haven't seen a lot of development for many, many decades. Places like Jamaica and Flushing and
Brooklyn.
South Brooklyn, Central Brooklyn, Prospect Park, Crown Heights, places that we haven't seen much development. So I think that's a good thing.
Tell us a little bit about what Avalon Bay is doing and what you're doing.
Sure. So just to pick up on your point about trying to buy land at a certain price, it's you know, I've been doing this for, I don't know, 18, 19 years, and I would have to say that it's probably the most difficult time I've ever seen to try to buy a piece of land and try to build rental product. That's what Avalon Bay does. We're a $25 billion publicly traded company. We own 85,000. We own and manage 85,000 apartments, and that's what we do. We do rental apartments. And I don't know what some of the other developers in the room are seeing, but I would guess that in the last 5 years there hasn't been a as of right development site that's been purchased for rental development. As of right, not a rezoning, but an as of right site, because the economics are just not there. Just doesn't work. The construction costs are out of sight. And as much VE as you try to do, you're just going to get there. So that's part of the reason why the condo market has softened, because a lot of those developments have become condo. And you made a reference earlier. You were going to ask me about why we went condo on our project on 61st Street.
It was always that discussion, as you know.
Sure.
And a lot of it is just dictated by the parameters of a particular price. Prices of land.
Wait, you're saying why did you go condo
Right.
on 61st
But
Street?
after your dour report and
I'm so sorry.
and David's condo market is softening, I'm switching back to rental. So I don't know. We don't really view it as switching from rental to condo, because when we purchase a site, we always felt like that was it's within the four corners of Billionaires Row at 61st Street and Broadway, and we had brought onto the team Corcoran Sunshine right away. So we always felt like this was either going to be part condo or have a condo exit. And so there are different points in time, and while we were developing for the first, designing for the first 2 years, that we considered, we got offers for the base of the building to be a condo, or we thought about maybe the top 10 floors would be condo. And then, because we always designed it with condo finishes and condo qualities. So, ceiling heights were appropriate, and we weren't using PTAC units, heat pumps, and we no offense, we brought in a nice architect, SOM, and they suggested cladding the facade with terracotta. I don't know if that fits your description of how.
Well, I got to tell you, terracotta is becoming like a very hot thing, and that's one of the.
Very hot.
No, it's very hot. It's unbelievable, by the way. But getting terracotta sometimes sucks, by the way, in terms of the price,
Yeah.
and also the timing of it.
Right. Well, it wasn't cheap, and it was made in Germany, and we hadn't used it before, and there's always a concern about production and shipping and installing, and there's a million different pieces, and you know, we had a big contingency, but at the end of the day, it worked out pretty well. We had a great sub who did the installation, so we're really happy with it. And it's really one of the defining features of the architecture in the profile of, it's a custom, obviously, profile for the building.
Yeah, most of those profiles are typically custom with
Yeah.
the terracotta buildings, and they're very interesting. By the way, the higher end buildings, in particular the condos, some of the smaller buildings also, they're using terracotta a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're using
Yep.
terracotta a lot.
Right, so this is our building, if people don't know, it's at the corner of 61st and Broadway. It's a 350,000 square foot development, 32 stories, 70,000 square feet of retail on 4 levels, 35,000 below grade, 35 above, and we were fortunate enough in October to sign a lease for half the space, all the below grade space with Target. So Target is our anchor tenant there. We've just got our first TCO. We're launching next month on our first condo project for Avalon Bay in New York City.
That sounds-
Have
that
you
sounds
done
great.
condo before, anywhere here?
No, it's our first condo project in New York.
That's fantastic.
So we're pretty excited now. So it's not a tagline, but you don't have to be a billionaire to buy in Billionaires Row.
David, you're everywhere, quite frankly. The biggest, the best, condos, rentals, just about everything. Tell us what's happening in your world right now.
Well, Lou, in our world, it's about getting it done.
Yes.
So, and as you know, some of you know, across the street, we're building Central Park Tower, which is, right as it stands right now at 1,400 feet, is the tallest residential building in the Western Hemisphere. And it's not done. So, meaning another 115 feet to go.
Okay, is it, when you say it's not done, is it like
Meaning,
pissing you off, it's
we're
going
not,
too
no,
slow?
it's not as high, it's not at its ultimate elevation.
No, I got it,
Right.
okay.
Yeah.
Because sometimes
So-
we say it's not done, and meaning, you know,
No.
like we're ticked off at somebody.
Yes, exactly. So,
So how are you finding the contractors with those type of buildings? Because I remember we had David Dodds another time, and we were talking about the last tallest building in the Western Hemisphere, quite frankly. And that building took a long time to build.
well, the tall buildings in Manhattan, they do take a long time to build. Why? Because of vertical transportation.
Yeah.
You can have hoists around the entire building, and it still takes a long time to get up to the top. So that's a big factor in the subs.
And is that also a condo type project?
So we have 182 condos sitting on top of what's going to be Nordstrom Department Store's flagship store,
Yeah, pretty
and
fantastic.
that'll
location.
open up in the fall. So.
But I remember we had a panel discussion a few years ago, and it was a different timing, obviously, at that particular time. And you said, Lou, there's only X amount of people that have X amount, I didn't forget.
So you got me.
There's only X amount of people who have X amount of money, and at some point, you know, that market is
Right.
gone.
Right. That market is tougher. You know, we do have sales. I mean, we still have a few apartments for sale across the street at 157. Not many. We have had a sales office open here at Central Park Tower, which is actually across the street in the retail space at 157, for about 9 months, and so it's by appointment only. We do have sales. We're not lacking. We're not really. Would we like more sales? Of course. Is it slow? Yes, it's slow. But the buyers who are going to buy that product in a building of that, you know, that size, they're unique, and so I think they're going to be out there probably no matter what.
How are you finding construction costs? You know,
Well,
you're buying obviously a lot of different
we
buildings.
buy very well, and there's a few friends of mine who are sitting in the audience that would probably attest to that.
Their prices are too high. Their prices are
The
too high.
prices are always high, but we manage to whittle it down. The market is getting. I think that everybody is still busy, and they're still feeling like the times are booming. But I think that it's really about what's happening in the future, what's happening 6 months, a year and a half from now, and what the projects are that maybe they're thinking they're going to do. Are they really going to get done? And I'm not talking about, you know, the mega projects in Manhattan like we do, or like Related's great, you know, Hudson Yards or Brookfield, or what's going to happen with Disney down in Soho. That'll get done no matter what. But it's what about all the others? and we heard about land prices, and we heard about how things are trading, and so you know, I'm probably pessimistic at that end.
How are you finding the contractors today? In other words, do you have a good, stable group of good contractors?
Yeah, that's a good question, because the contractors, union contracting, there's a very good stable in Manhattan. It is the place to build. You have 125,000 union construction workers. You also have a very strong non-union sector now, and I think it could approach 100,000 workers. Now, that's a little different, and we're partially in that business, probably maybe between 10 and 40% of some of it, not a job like one of Central Park Tower, but some of the other ones that we work on. You know, we will mix and go open shop, and it takes a little while to weed out, you know, the bad ones, the ones who really can't perform at the level that we would like. But you know what? They're learning, and they're getting a lot better at it.
Yeah, and are you finding, quite frankly, still a differential, a very significant differential between union and non-union, or no?
Yeah, another good question. In some trades, yes, but even in things like superstructure concrete, you can get it down to probably 12%. Some of the others, some of the mechanical can go down to 5%. So, and if it's close enough, we're likely going to go union.
Yeah, Ken, what are you finding in that area? In other words, how are you finding the prices, and how are you finding the contractors that are out there doing some of your projects?
So we moved went independent about 10 years ago, and now we are fully independent. We go open shop. We look at it as we bid to both union and non-union trades, contractors from the same trade. It's the best qualified for the lowest price. I think the answer to your question, it's scalable. So while we just finished 2 projects that were open shop, one was the Woolworth Tower conversion to residences. It was about a $160 million project. And the other was the Times Square addition in Times Square on 47th Street. That was about a $380 million project. And on the larger project, that is definitely a smaller delta. So I would say that anything up to maybe 100 million, you're getting better than 15%. Once it gets up to say 160, we had about it was a little less, and into Times Square project, it was about an 8% difference. So as the projects scale up, that delta changes.
Becomes more significant.
Right, and you also we would have a larger percentage of union trades in the mix as the projects scale up as well. And it's really because of the available manpower that some of the organizations carry.
Chris, let me ask you a question about cost, because obviously you do different size buildings. You do your own buildings, and then you have other people build the buildings. For you, I would imagine there's a significant difference in price between what you're normally accustomed to paying and what you're finding yourself paying with some of the larger construction managers.
Yes. Actually, I started my own construction business from long times ago. And I have my own plumbing supply, I have my own building supply. So in a material-wise, it's lower. And also, I have my own construction companies, and I manage by myself. So the price is probably like at least like a 25-30% difference for non-union. But my company is a minority, it's a registered minority. So sometimes on different things we use union, but mostly it's non-union. And
do you find a big difference between the smaller projects that you're building by yourself and the other projects?
Yes.
Big difference?
Yeah, big difference. So
I answered that, big difference.
I mean, the Lawrence City, the Skyline Tower, right now the price is, still very good, but it's around like $430 per square feet. And for the low rise, like around 20 story where I'm building, it's about $250, $280 a square feet.
So it's a big difference.
Yes.
Let me ask you guys a question about, Marty, financing. how are you finding the market in terms of money? Because one of the things that you read in the press is that there's all types of money that's available. They're just looking for product.
Avalon's in a unique situation that we're a publicly traded company, so we actually don't finance each project individually. So we finance off of our balance sheet through either cash flow from existing properties, sales of properties. We'll issue equity, in stock, or we'll issue float unsecured notes. And we tend to, for every project we get approved, we basically match fund, which means there's, when we commit to purchase a site, we already have the dollars lined up from our finance group to fund the entire project. So we're actually not in that market for financing.
But you know that market. In other words, the criteria these days are what? Because you know that market better than most people.
Yeah, so, there's definitely capital, from what I'm hearing, which is, causing some of the continued supply problem in condos. As far as construction lending, usually it circles back to, how much equity is a developer putting into the project, what's the loan to cost they're looking to borrow. The quality of the sponsor developer is a big factor as well. So, I'm hearing quotes for a construction loan. If you're putting in, it's 70 or 75% loan to value on a construction side, you can get financing for 250 basis points over LIBOR, and then on a takeout, if it's again in that range of 75% of the value of the property, you could borrow as low as 125 basis points over 10-year treasuries. So still pretty cheap money out there.
Okay. Chris, how are you finding the lending market? Everything is
Mostly we through the bank. It's right now. It's above what he's saying. It's like 250. On the top of LIBOR.
Let's discuss a little bit about what people are looking for in rentals and also condos. Tell us a little bit about where the finishes are going. And we'll start with you, Donna, then we'll go to you, Eric, and then we'll go to you, David. Donna, tell us. What's in demand? What are people looking for? What's the latest and greatest?
I think right now that it's all about price.
It's all about price.
Yeah, I think it comes down to price. they are.
So forget about the latest and greatest. What is the number?
I don't think they're. Well, no offense to the developers, but their products they're planning those so far out that very often by the time they get to the market, it's 6 or 7 or 8 or 10 years, and very often what's in the condo in terms of finishes is just not quite in tune with the market. That's what we see more often than not.
So right now, in your mind, it's the numbers. The numbers are dictating.
The numbers have to dictate. But I do think I do think the terracotta thing is a trend. I think that's a good one. I do think that the young people I don't think the developers are necessarily in tune with the young people. I do think the young people are going to be looking for things that are environmentally sound.
But they're still going to be looking at the price because they
They're
don't
looking
have the
for
money to buy the environmental sound.
The price drives it is the most price-sensitive market I've seen in many years.
Tough market.
It's a very tough market.
Which is why Long Island City is really a great place to buy. We're not looking for the $400 to $100 million buyers. We have, I think, an average of maybe 1.2, 1.3 million. So it pretty much opens up to everybody. With regards to trend, I think people are looking for nice amenities now. We are doing a couple projects that do have terracotta, smaller projects. Like we're working on one that's 88 units, and another one that's like 110 units. Both buildings do have terracotta. We're trying to target different buildings to certain, buyers. We have, with regards to marketing and design aesthetics, we have one of the terracotta buildings. We're targeting towards the female buyer, or more low, pinkish tones and blush tones with the design. I'm not joking.
Are you serious?
then working with a lot of our developers. Chris is really hands-on with the pricing, and he's really hands-on. I've never seen anybody really talk and understand construction or finishes or anything as much as I have with working with Chris. And I think our product, when we designed it 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, something like that, we were working with Hill West. It's still going to be a really beautiful looking building when we launch it next month. So some buildings that you probably designed 5 or longer, maybe it does get outdated. Our buildings are usually planned maybe 12 to 18, the design aspect are usually planned 12 to 18 months. But now I think everyone's looking for price and they're looking for nice amenities and location.
Yeah, right.
David, what do you see? Because
I'll beg to differ with a few things that were said.
Yeah, go ahead,
All right.
do it.
So, Donna, I think that the young people, I don't think they really think about sustainability. So if I take one of the buildings we built, 555 10th, which is on 10th Avenue and 41st Street, it's a 53-story tower, you know, unbelievable amenities. I'm talking 2 swimming pools, bowling alley, a dog center, because there's a lot of dogs in the building, very well elevated, finishes, pre-finished wood floors, but very smart tile bathrooms, washer dryers in every room, and I think we're probably around 92 average per square foot, which is a very high rent. So that's for you. That's a little over $5,000 for 1 bedroom, and I think we're about 95% occupied. So, and we're already turning over our first occupants for either renewals or for new renters. So it seems like price doesn't really matter because $5,000 is a lot of money.
A lot of the luxury market did start to move to rental. The SALT tax definitely affected our.
Well, this was built as a rental.
Yeah,
so,
I know, but I'm saying that the rental market is doing better now.
The rental market is for us is pretty well. It's doing very well. Even on 14th Street, EMBCA is another building is doing very nicely down there. But if we talk about the tax, what's the big problem today? Today, right now, as we speak, is the pied-à-terre tax, because that is unsettled. If you read the Wall Street Journal yesterday, it sounded like it was that we had some hope, but if that goes into effect, that's a big problem.
What's probably going to happen is they're probably going to raise transfer tax.
Well, if they raise it, yeah. So how much can they raise the transfer tax?
Okay,
and the mansion tax.
Okay,
but the pied-à-terre tax is a disaster.
It's a
for New York.
disaster.
Right.
Okay, so this pied-à-terre tax started, and it started a steamroll in the last couple of weeks.
Yes.
And what was really aggravating was that the city controller, Scott Stringer, put out a thing that they would get $650 million. And if they did the pied-à-terre tax as they designed. So I was in my office, and my husband said to me, go do the numbers and figure this out. So I went and I did the numbers, and I think the books are cooked here. There were, from 2005 to 2018, there were 10,003 properties that closed at $5 million and above. Because the pied-à-terre tax originally was supposed to be on $5 million and above. And if all 100% were pied-à-terre, they would have raised $410 million, okay? So I knew right away the math was wrong.
It was all BS.
Oh, totally. I called the Wall Street Journal, I called the deputy editor, I called one of the reporters, I said, these numbers, you gotta work on these numbers with me, these numbers are not right. So they started and they wrote an article. And it filtered through, and now it's just too hard to do that pied-à-terre tax. So now they're talking about a flat tax. Okay, one flat, but let me just say this, more math. Last year, at $3 million, because now they're talking at $3 million and above, a reporting tax, $3 million and above, there were 14.7 billion in sales in Manhattan, okay? At the $3 million and above in apartments. If you did it 1%, that would only be 147 million. That's not going to do anything. They want money to finance the subway. I don't see how it's possible.
No, it's not possible at all.
It's impossible. They're saying
Not only
You
that-
gotta fix the subway.
right. So
Fix the system.
Yeah. So they're saying the subway's $40 billion. I don't know if they've got that right. But Cuomo was running around saying, oh, he can get a $9 billion bond offering off of this pied-à-terre tax. But I believe they will do something. I don't know, but I think it'll be a recording tax.
Yeah.
And they may do it on $1 million and above, because $3 million may not cut it.
So how does that affect us,
It's
everybody
gonna
on the
affect
table?
us. The
How does
price-
that affect us if they do $1 million and above?
$1 million, it's gonna affect actually, unfortunately, it's gonna affect the sponsor.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What people don't understand with the pied-à-terre tax, and I did an interview like a week ago, I think, with The Real Deal about pied-à-terre tax. Michael Dell bought one of your apartments, I think?
Yep, right across the street.
Okay. So Michael Dell, the 1 week a year that he's in New York, probably spends more money than everybody here does all year. And that money that he spends that 1 week a year provides jobs for restaurants and hair salons or whatever. And unfortunately, the politicians aren't really business people, and that's the big problem.
I want to say one thing. This is another interesting thing. Two other things. In 2016, 3 billionaires left the state of Connecticut. Sternlich, Paul Tudor Jones, and this guy Peter Flock. Do you know what that cost Connecticut? $450 million. When David Tepper walked out of New Jersey in 2015, New Jersey had to redo the budget, just on the loss of that one guy.
How many guys or women are leaving New York State?
Well, he took his firm
It's-
too.
Yeah, he took his firm,
Took his
but
firm.
it's big money.
How many are
I
leaving
don't
New
know.
York State?
How many billionaires or how many people in general?
Well, no, billionaires, yeah. The answer is probably none, right? Or none?
How many on the panel are leaving, you say?
No, I don't think that's true, Lou. I think people aren't leaving. People are leaving to go to because of the tax situation. They're leaving because they can go pay no income tax in other states like was it North Carolina, Florida. There's a lot of people, and we should be worried about that.
We should, because Rick Scott, he was the governor, now he's the senator of Florida. He's trolling Andrew Cuomo. He's saying, he's been trolling him. He's saying, come on, come down to Florida. This is crazy. This idea that you're just going to continually ding the rich. And Cuomo is the one who came out with this stat that 49% of all the money that comes into New York State tax is by 1%. 1% funds 49% of New York State.
Very interesting, very interesting. Let's jump back to Amazon for a second, okay? Because
If Amazon was here, we wouldn't have any of these problems.
Because I know, Eric, this is a big thing in your mind. So where do we go from here? In other words, where do we go from here?
I think we need to continue a message that New York City is not closed for business. We are open for business.
How do we do that when everything is turning sort of like psycho left? How are we doing that?
Show up in the polling. Go vote. If you're not too many people voting. Our mayor, I think he won, but he had 600,000 people come to vote. So you need to go and vote. That's what he has to do. And I think there's a lot more of us. There was 70. They did a poll. They did several polls. 70% wanted them here. 70%. It was a small group. I saw them when I would go to my office. I saw these wackos with their signs.
Who is the main culprit, Eric? All right, you don't want to mention names.
I'll mention. I don't
Don't
care.
mention the name.
Huh?
Don't mention the name.
But, it's listen, if you call up, because
AOC.
No, it's not AOC. It's not AOC.
but if you
It is.
call up some people, like you call up various councilmen and assembly people, and you say, what was your position on Amazon? Because I've done it. They say, well, we didn't really have a position, which is, to me, they were not for it. Didn't do anything.
I'd like to say a couple of things. The certain politicians in Long Island City, I've been friends with them for the last 10 years. I've raised tens of thousands of dollars for them. AOC, I'll tell you why it's AOC's fault. Because AOC de-seated Joe Crowley, who was in office for 25 years, was supposed to take over Pelosi's seat. And she scared everybody. She literally just scared everybody. And everyone decided to jump on the bandwagon and go after her base. And that's what they're doing. If AOC comes out tomorrow and says, I want Amazon back, they'll all jump and be behind her and say, yes, we support Amazon.
Here's my take, Eric. My take is fault everywhere, by the way.
Yes.
Fault everywhere.
Yeah. So.
But that was the biggest buyer on the planet.
Correct. So the mayor, for example, in the 3 months that they were here, he didn't come once to visit Long Island City. Cuomo was doing some fighting, but I think that there was a false narrative that we were cutting a check for $3 billion, which was completely false. And that's what people believed. Why are we giving, the narrative was, the tagline was, why are we giving $3 billion to the richest man in the world? It's false, right? They were generating $27.5 billion.
Marty, you're ready to
No,
say
he actually was making my point, but it's scary to think if it's true that she actually thought there was a fund of $3 billion sitting there somewhere. And I think the quote was, why don't we build new schools and make infrastructure?
Amazon was actually building a school.
Of course, I know. But it was actually a savings on the taxes they would have paid in the future, a discount from the taxes they would be paying, and now there's no taxes being paid. So the thought that a key politician could mix up that concept is scary.
First of all, the narrative was screwed up. You need good public relations people to handle this kind of thing. This was a delicate negotiation, and I just don't think, I mean, if it was us, they would have blamed the broker. We would be shot, right? It would be walk the plank time. I wrote to Cuomo, I said, if you can't do this yourself, go get Bloomberg and let him cut the deal. Get one person in here and cut the deal. But it's, everybody.
Listen, I think I did this on purpose to rile you guys up. So,
If Bloomberg was mayor, they'd be here.
They'd be here.
Because I think that there's a lot of smart business people in New York. I don't think it's, personally, it's my own opinion, I don't think it's over. How many cities, because one of their criteria has to be three airports. So how many cities have 3 airports and the ability to financially support such a move? There's not too many. I think they're going to be back at the table at some point.
I'm not so sure about that, I gotta be honest with you. But sorry I had you guys go in that direction. So we're gonna end it up right now. If we can, we'll start with David on this side, we'll end with Chris. Give us your predictions over the next 6 to 12 months. What do you see in the industry with any regard to whatever you're doing? In other words, everybody's got a different angle at the table, which is fine.
Lou, as usual, you always ask the great questions. and our job is to give great answers. So, in the next 6 to 12, like I alluded to earlier, I think that there's still that perception of that things are really, in terms of the development and the construction business, that things are going well. The question is what's going to happen with overpriced land that's been sold that can't be built on, the amount of how leveraged the people that have those parcels are, and what they end up trading for.
They usually lose them in certain markets.
They usually lose, though. I mean, we are aware of a few that we've been looking at for quite a while. The bottom hasn't dropped out yet. To me, and to I think the way the company views it is that we're going to be looking at the next 6 to 12 as really good opportunities. So,
well, they were talking in the press about 30 or more projects that people are looking at right now because people can't finish them. It was alluded to, by the way, people taking over construction projects, etc. So there's a lot of opportunities right now.
yeah,
People are going to lose money right now. Other people are going to make money.
right, and I think the lenders. They don't want to be, they're not in that business, so somebody has to come in, and if you come in, you're going to come in at probably a low basis, and like I said, I think it's probably the world of, it's a city of opportunity for the next 6 to 12, so, and that could be good, because that'll fuel, to me, the next wave of development, which is, and that's our view. So we're looking to staff up a little bit, and really approach this in a very analytical way and look at every single number and what the product needs to be.
So I would say, we look at cycles quite a bit from a national standpoint. So I think most economists would say we're in the very late innings of an economic boom. That's I think right now we're second longest and maybe on the brink of the longest cycle. So it seems like there's a reason why things might end, but at the same time, it just seems like a different dynamic in the economy where there continues to be hopefully 3% plus growth nationally and more job creation. Here in New York, I think there's going to be a real opportunity if someone can deliver some rental product over the next 2 or 3 years. There was a big rush, if you remember, years ago to get in under the 421A program.
Correct. Yeah.
And there was just a boatload of rental product that was delivered over the last 5 years, and rents had basically stayed flat or came down. But a lot of that inventory has been absorbed, and a lot of people are projecting, as are we, that sometime in 2020 or perhaps a little after, there'll be no new supply, not none, but a big drop-off in supply for rental product in Manhattan. Like I said before, most of what was purchased over the last 5 years really ended up being condo. Now, there are a couple of large projects that have gone through rezonings, ULIP, so there'll be some rental. We have a project on the Upper East Side at 96th and 2nd. We went through a ULIP to get a rezone. It's a JV with the Board of Ed, basically. We could build, 900 apartments, but the project is fighting a lawsuit, unfortunately. And so we're actually, it's like I said, a JV with the Board of Ed, but we're hoping that the timing is such that, the downturn comes, maybe construction costs ease up a little bit, and the supply, as I said, would probably be less than it's been over the past several years.
Marty, there seems to be a lot of action in the Bronx. What's your thought about that?
Yeah, I mean, the Bronx, there's a lot of talk about the opportunity zones. Again, I'm not an expert on that. It's kind of new.
I don't think anybody's an expert right this second on opportunity zones, because I remember Chris said to me, Lou, do you know anything about the opportunity zones? And everybody's trying to find out about the opportunity zones, but nobody knows anything yet.
Right, it's a little fuzzy, but I'm sure the sort of freewheeling private developers, the early adopters, they'll do fine. They're jumping in and buying up sites. I think the Bronx has the second most opportunity zones, second to Brooklyn. Listen, the Bronx has a lot of room to grow. I mean, if you look at the rents that are there, it makes sense that it hasn't been tapped yet. The question is, for us, we would prefer to be, in looking at sites, be closer to the subway station, something that we could build a critical mass around.
David, what do you say?
We're actually very busy on stuff that's in the very early stages, things that are still in land assemblage, or things that are being rezoned or need to be rezoned. We have a lot of things at the city in rezoning processes now. Most of these are rental projects, and they're outside of Manhattan. I think there's a lot of room left to grow in places that are decent or good transit connections in areas that aren't far from Manhattan that haven't seen development yet. So I've been saying that for a couple of years, but we're seeing some of those projects in construction now and a lot more potential ones coming. So I'm cautiously optimistic. There are a lot of headwinds. The anti-development community has grown in sophistication, and there are bills at the state level that would be very damaging, and I'm sure everyone at this table has seen aspects of this, so we have to be mindful to make sure our politicians remember how important this industry is.
Thank you. Eric?
We're pretty busy, I think, for the next 2 or 3 years. I am a little bit concerned about, we do have, I think, 3, maybe 4 projects that are under ULIRP. So I am a little bit concerned about those 3 or 4, only because of the political state we're in right now. But I mean, we're very bullish on the condo market right now. We have we're putting probably a little over $1 billion worth of condos on the market this year. So we're bullish on that market, and we're bullish on other markets outside of Long Island City. We have about 1,000 units in Woodside, about 500 in Astoria. a couple hundred in Flushing. So we're bullish in Queens in general.
Sounds good. Okay.
I see a solid 2 years. Some of the opportunities we're seeing from across the board, from developers, just from experience. Smaller, well-placed, well-located condo projects, I think, will sell. There's a market for smaller buildings. We actually just finished one that was 21 East 12th in the Village. I had the same ask as another one down in Financial District, both at 4,000 a square foot. One is completely sold out. We haven't even gotten the TCO yet, and the other one is only 10% sold. So I think location and how the timing and how it's conceived is good as well. Another trend we see is co-living. We did a project with the Durst organization to rental, and it was designed to support co-living, 166 rental units, and they completely leased out within 60 days. So it was a very successful project. We're seeing, interesting enough, a very strong market in medium income rentals and mixed income, and also industrial. The last mile concept for freight delivery and so forth. We are right now involved in 4 projects around the city, and that is pretty much supported by the Amazons of the world in terms of delivery, that it's just too expensive to bring into the heart of the city large movements of freight. So now the thinking is to, in the peripheral of the city, build these massive receiving centers that will take the freight, either rail or heavy trucks, and then parcel it down to smaller trucks that'll do that last mile into the city. There's also
no drones yet? No drones?
One of the last things is that there's a tremendous pressure, which we pressurize ourselves. How can we reduce costs? How can we reduce costs? How can we reduce costs? So innovation, I think, is in huge demand. How can we do what we do better from the construction industry? We're always looking at that. I always look at how is it that we can build the same building in New York and build the same building in Jersey City for half the price? Yeah. Now, there's things like the scaffolding law. We got to do something about that. We need to pass that legislation. It's just driving up insurance to crazy levels, and also some of the degree of regulation. We're not going to get rid of the congestion. There are some built-in factors, but there's a lot I think we can do.
Thank you. Donna?
Well, long-term, I'm always very optimistic. So I think...
We're not talking about really long-term. Tell us
But short-term this year, I think it's going to be tough. I see these, like in the first quarter, the average asking on the condominiums was like $3,100 a square foot and change, and that's just too high. I mean, the prices are just too high, and what's going to cause them to reset, I don't know. So it's interesting. Markets, I find when they're going down, it's much slower than when they go up in New York. Yeah. So right now, I'm not, the second quarter will be better probably than the third and the fourth, because that's usually the way it is. But right now, it's, I would say, a lot of caution. You've got to work on your prices, otherwise it's not going to sell. The other thing, getting back to one other thing about this pied-à-terre tax that I think you're going to see in legal documents being done now, is if you are a buyer or a seller, you're not going to know that there might be some recording tax that might hit you. If you sign a contract today and you're closing on a new condo in 2 years, that recording tax might be a lot higher. So I think what will probably happen, you will probably see, is that lawyers will put a rider in the contract that says, my buyer or my seller, whatever it is only responsible for the taxes at the time we sign this contract.
Have you seen that?
I predict that.
Are you predicting it?
I am predicting you will see that.
There's some lawyers maybe in the audience.
I'm calling all my developers tomorrow.
No, you have to, because you have to think about this, because you don't want to go
Donna,
down.
don't spread it, man. Don't spread it.
Makes sense.
If you don't want to go down to a closing and they say, Oh my God, I owe another 2%.
Yeah, no.
And I could just see, so I believe that will be, because of this political thing, that's something you have to think about. Thank you.
Donna, thank you for that. Chris?
I think the condo market in New York City, it's a little bit coming down. For last few months, I saw all the news from all friends talking. It's especially in Manhattan, the luxury condo is come down a lot. I have a friend, she bought a unit in Manhattan 3 years ago. It's $5 million. Right now, she asking same broker to sell her unit, and put on the market. The broker told her for last 3 months the highest offer is $4 million, but I still cannot get out.
And she paid how much?
$5 million 3 years ago.
Oh, wow. Well, that's
So,
nothing.
but that's a luxury condo. So, but I don't, it depends on your design. So the condo design is very important. So I have a condos in Flushing, in Amherst. I still sell. Even Amazon left, I still sell because my design is about 700 square feet, between 660 to 800 square feet. It's 2 bedroom, 2 bathroom. I have smallest 2 bedroom is 662 square feet with 2 bathroom, 2 bedrooms, and a kitchen, closet, everything. So it's still very good. After Amazon, I think I have a project about 180 some units. When Amazon coming, I sold like 20 some units. But after Amazon leaving until right now, I sold another 20 some units because the unit is small. So it's people still buying. Yes. But like what Donald said, the price. But when you have less square footage, you still can get a good price.
Yeah.
I feel in the future it's going to be come down a little bit, but your design sometimes
In New
make a
York, it
difference.
always comes down less than other places, and when it goes up, it goes faster than other places.
Yes.
With that, a round of applause for the panel. Thank you all for being here today.